On your kids' cue. Thank you. Okay, we're going to, some of you may have an agenda. Sometimes it pops up on the screen. We're in section 3 right now. We're coming in from closed session. This is our open session. So we met for about an hour prior. And any actions that we take in closed session, we bring back out. So with that, I'd ask our clerk, Trustee Prusso, if there's anything or any motions you'd like to make.
Mr. President, in closed session, we received information pertaining to the recommended expulsion of student F. Based upon that information, I move that we approve the staff recommendation for the stipulated expulsion of student F.
Thank you.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Trustee Prusso. It's been seconded by Trustee Druin. Any discussion on the motion? Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Trustee Guzman? Aye. Trustee Druin?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Trustee Wong?
Aye.
President Bueno?
Aye. And that motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Just a little bit of housekeeping. I know we got a couple people standing up and stuff, but we have to leave. There's an exit on here, a couple in the back. Someone needs to use the restroom facilities, make a phone call, something like that. Please go into the lobby area, and the restrooms are right across the way. And then after following your item, I know there's a lot of kids getting recognized tonight. We usually just kind of break just for a second to allow everyone to kind of assemble outward, whether it's for a picture or something like that. The primary focus on modulations on the primary focus of this district is on the education of the students within the district. Each of you will have the opportunity to share your ideas and thoughts within this meeting, and that's how we run the meeting. During our discussion on each agenda item, there'll be a time for you to have the opportunity to speak to that item. If the topic is not on the list, but you'd like to speak to it, fill out a tan speaker card, and there's a public comment section. We'll call you up in no particular order. If it is on the agenda, please fill out a blue card and pass them forward to either end of the dais up here, and they'll make their way over. And we'll call you up under public comment or under the agenda item, and then you can speak for 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes. There's a little timer will come on when you get to about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. It'll remind you that you have about 30 seconds to go. If folks are in agreement with what someone's saying, feel free to just put your hand up. We can all see it, and then the cameras see it. What we really like to do is we have a really good track record of everyone being really polite and civil. So whether it's applause or maybe not so much, if you just agree, a hand up kind of shows folks watching, and we don't miss out on anything people are saying. They're going up against a timer, and we really want people to be heard so that we can hear everything that you have to say, and the public who's watching us, they get a chance to hear you. And the reminder is that the meetings are televised. They're on Tri-Valley TV, and it's on Channel 28. I believe you have to have Comcast, or you can watch on the internet after. Saturday evenings at 7 p.m., Monday evenings at Monday mornings at 10 a.m., Friday and Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Moving into Section 4, I'd ask our Superintendent, Mr. Van Schack, if there's any changes to the agenda.
Mr. President, there are not.
Thank you very much. We can move forward with one of our favorite parts, the recognitions.
Yes, indeed. I'd like to invite Ms. Dana Taylor forward. She is going to share some thoughts about some amazing students from Maryland Avenue who are most certainly deserving of recognition this evening.
Do I need to push it? Here they are, looking very, very nice tonight. Now, later I'm going to say their names, and when I do, you're going to do this, right? So everyone knows who you are. Okay. Okay. Good evening, Board President Bueno, members of the board, Superintendent Van Schack, Cabinet and Community. I am Dana Taylor, the principal of Maryland Avenue Elementary School. Tonight it is my honor to introduce Kayla Nieto Butron, Leanne Twomey, Cristiano Zarates Islas, Gael Corano Rubio, Brian Martinez, Jordan Blanchard Madera, Jesus Gonzalez, Lindsay Florin, Tonatzin Ortiz, Kayla Kim, Emily Esteban Hernandez, Anna Lopez, and Julian Rosado. And board, the students you see before you here are here because they represent the hardest workers in our school. These dedicated Maryland Avenue students have made outstanding growth in their reading fluency, their comprehension, but most importantly, their confidence. These students have shown growth in their ability to read out loud, to participate in group discussions, and their teachers are seeing these improved skills transferring to all of the other content areas. These amazing students are working to become lifelong learners and establish a love of reading. We celebrate these young people tonight for their dedication and their grit and their perseverance. And Maryland Avenue staff, who many of them are here tonight, and their parents are so, so proud of all they've accomplished. Great work, Roadrunners.
Let's have them come around. Reading good. I like your suit. You look really nice. Good job. Nice job, buddy.
Congratulations.
We'll give it a slight little pause. That's, kids are going out.
Thank you, Dave.
And then those who are standing up, feel free to, you can kind of migrate forward if you feel comfortable to sit down. Make him 1 sec. Big group. And a lot of little kids. All righty.
Can we keep the baby? She's so sweet.
Yeah, here we
All
go.
right. So continuing the theme of recognizing our amazing students, I'd like to invite Mr. Jason Krolikowski forward. He is going to do the honors this evening of introducing some successful mathletes.
Good evening, Board President Bueno, members of the board, Superintendent Van Schack, and Cabinet. My name is Jason Krolikowski. I'm Director of Secondary Education, and with me tonight is Robin Schlichter, who's a math teacher at Mendenhall Middle School and also was instrumental in running our Math Counts program that happened on January 21st. I'd first like to invite all of the Math Counts students that are here to come join us up on the stage. Come on up, students. Thank you. The Math Counts program that was established, the first ever competition in 1984, is a program that provides math competition to United States students of all ability levels to build confidence and improve attitudes about math and problem solving. What you'll see up here is just a couple of pictures of the wonderful event that we had. That weekend was also a big NFL playoff weekend, but I would say that the math counts competition brought more drama and energy than I've seen in a football game. This is our students just taking the test. Some work in groups, some work individually. But it's just wonderful to see students collaborating around just the topic of math. And they spent their Saturdays, they've spent afternoons working with their clubs and their teachers. It was just a wonderful day. I'd like to let Ms. Schlichter speak a little bit. She's the true brains of the operation. She stands behind closed doors, calculating the orders, getting numbers ready, and doing it all within about 20 minutes. So it's pretty fantastic, but I just want to let her say a few words.
It's been really exciting to have the students back in person doing the competition. Our numbers have been growing over the last few years. I think maybe about 5 years ago, we had a max of 150, and now we're back up into like almost 130. So it's really exciting to see the kids participating in the clubs at school each week, and then coming to the competition and just putting themselves out there, being risk takers and trying to compete in mathematics. So we're really proud of you guys.
Yes, absolutely. So this is what the day looked like, if you can picture it. About 150 students doing math. It's just a real good time. Parents are excited. It's just a great day. So I'm going to introduce the winners of the day. And as I call your name, students, please go ahead and step forward, raise your hand. And we will, as President Bueno said, we'll maybe shake hands at the end and do pictures afterwards. So our top 5 finalists from the 6th grade division, number 1 was Eugene Baker at Christensen, Minkai Kawamura from East Avenue, Isabella Jerosen Raha from Mendenhall, Jack Bonner from Christensen, and Andrew Liu from Christensen. Top 10 finalists, and this was the most exciting piece where they start 1 through 10 based on their individual score, and they kind of ladder their way up. So 10 faces 9, and the winner moves up to 8. So kind of the number 1 was waiting as they moved their way up. As you can see, in 10th place was Parth Mittal from Mendenhall, and in 9th place was Arshia Mittal from Mendenhall. 8th place was Marnix Van Veen from Mendenhall. You'll see a theme there, Ms. Schlichter at Mendenhall. Tane Deka from Mendenhall, Ann Bui from Mendenhall, Steve Huang from Mendenhall, Kevin Chang from Mendenhall, Avanish Karthik from Mendenhall, Abe Narayan from Joe Mitchell, and then our winner, who answered the questions in about 5 seconds each, was Ananya Garg. In our 6th place team division, we had a winner from East Avenue. The winners were Ruth Hollingsworth. This was a team of 4. Minkai Kawamura, Rebecca Nelson, and Anna Stats. The 7th and 8th grade 1st place team was from Mendenhall. We have Anna Parani Amarnath, Ananya Garg, Arshia Mittal, and Sai Penaganda. We want to give a round of applause for all of our competitors. And at this point, we'd like to invite the students to walk by and
Please.
give
Great job.
to walk by and go ahead and give the board members and cabinet a little fist bump.
Nice work. Congratulations. Congratulations. Nice job. Good work. Nice job. Congratulations.
Nice job. Congrats.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Nice work.
Nice job.
Good job.
Congratulations.
Good job. Congratulations, girl power, right? Congratulations.
You guys twins? Like my twin boys. Nice job. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for doing this. Super awesome.
Yeah, I know. Me too. I'd love it.
We didn't get an invite.
Neither did I. Didn't know anything about it. We'll give folks a second as folks file out, and then a little second here, and then we're going to go into our student board member reports. And kind of precursor on that is We have student board members on our board here that are from each of our comprehensive high schools, Livermore High and Granada. Mackenzie wasn't able to make it this evening, so Loudon Philbrick, he's normally from Granada, but he's going to be doing both of them tonight. So Loudon, yeah, you're up.
I'm gonna start with Livermore High. So, good evening, Board President Bueno, members of the board, Superintendent Van Schack, and cabinet and community. Sorry. Livermore High has an exciting February ahead. This upcoming Friday, February 10th, we have Operation Needle Drop, our school-wide music video rally. We're looking forward to seeing what music our students pick to represent their classes and how the video all comes together. Check our YouTube channel, Cowboy Alley Pro, for the video, which will come out sometime next week. Last Friday, February 3rd, LHS had a rivalry rally to get our students excited about the freshman, JV, and varsity basketball games against Granada. Last week, between Monday and Thursday, we had a dodgeball tournament happening at lunch each day. 8 different dodgeball teams faced off to play a final match at the Rivals rally between students and teachers. Students really seemed to enjoy watching how competitive it got between the teams at lunch and our rally. Livermore High School's chamber orchestra and symphonic band have been invited to play at Carnegie Hall in New York City. Musical and instrument director Justin Enright has been working extremely hard with both programs to give them this opportunity. However, it is the students' hard work and dedication to playing beautiful music that got them invited to play at one of the most famous stages in the world. In order for all members of the programs to be able to attend, they are fundraising a GoFundMe. If you're interested in helping our LHS band members by donating, please look up Help Livermore High Musicians Play Carnegie Hall on the GoFundMe website. As our winter sports seasons come to a close, we reminisce on the athletic achievement of our students. Girls and boys soccer have their final games coming up this week after incredible seasons. Senior Dalton Silva and junior Aiden Ochoa had amazing wrestling performances, both making it to the finals at our most popular LHS Hunter Demerit Memorial Wrestling Tournament on January 28th. We are looking forward to seeing what our girls softball team does this year, as last year they had an amazing season with a killer win streak. Thank you, and remember that today is a great day to be a Cowboy.
With enthusiasm. Nice job, Loudon.
Let's get on to the good stuff. Tell her all you want. Okay. Good evening, Board President Bueno, members of the board, Superintendent Van Schack, cabinet, and community. As the trimester inches closer and closer to its end, students are feeling the calm before the storm, that being final exams. On February 4th, the annual Winter Ball was held at Granada, a formal dance to embrace the winter festivities. Over 700 tickets were sold, and the ball featured fun games for students to participate in. The ball was put on by the sophomore class office, and they did an incredible job. This past week was the fated rivalry basketball game between Livermore and Granada. A rally was held on February 3rd. The rally congratulated all winter sports and their performances throughout the season. It featured performances from dance team and hip-hop club, as well as games such as knockout and a 5v5 students v teachers basketball match. And we have come to learn that Granada teachers are not the best at basketball, with a whopping 0 points. Regarding the rivalry match, Granada took care of business and defeated the Cowboys easily. Now, regarding sports, Granada Wrestling won their 4th consecutive E-Ball Dual Championship and took 3rd at NCS Dual Championships. They will be at the E-Ball Championships later this week. Girls basketball took 1st place on the E-Ball Valley side and will play Monte Vista Friday at Granada in the 1st round of the E-Ball playoffs. Boys basketball enters the E-Ball playoffs as the 6th seed and plays Tuesday night at home. They are currently playing as we speak. Both soccer teams play Livermore on Thursday. Spring sports have begun today, and Granada will continue striving towards excellence, and remember to stay classy, Granada.
Thank you very much. We're going to move into section 7, which is our employee association reports, and we're going to begin this evening with Livermore Education Association President Amy Thompson. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Board President Bueno, Superintendent Van Schack, members of the board and cabinet. I'm Amy Thompson, President of the Livermore Education Association, representing teachers, nurses, psychologists, speech pathologists, and teachers on special assignment. Sunday evening, about 8 p.m., we wrapped up negotiations for salary for this year and next year with the final signatures on the tentative agreements. Next Monday, LEA members will have the opportunity to vote on the ratification of the tentative agreements reached. This was a difficult negotiation with many factors at play. On top of coming out of a pandemic and high inflation rates, we also have a teacher shortage, which is impacting everyone who works and learns in Livermore. Emotions were high, and there was a lot of pressure to make a meaningful increase to compensation so that we can attract and retain teachers. I believe the tentative agreements we have reached help us meet our goal. If ratified by LEA members and approved by this board, the agreement will move our rank in comparisons from number 14 to number 6 in March. This is significant, and we thank our board and our district for hearing our concern and finding a solution. We should take a moment to celebrate. However, this is not the end of the story. If few or none of the contingencies agreed upon are met next year, there is potential for our compensation to backslide. I believe that by engaging in the difficult process this year, we have begun the journey to work together to ensure careful analysis and planning so that we can get to the point of always remaining competitive. I look forward to reporting the ratification vote results on February 16th and continuing to work together to address issues to be sure that we can all provide the best for Livermore students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Also, we have Eileen Greenlee's here with LEA, and then we have CSEA. We have Stephanie Wagoner, who represents CSEA as our president, and SEIU is Kirsty Governor. And then our confidentials are Lily Lopez. Moving in communication from the public, section 8.1. Communication from the public is the time for our public to comment either in writing or verbally on any item that is not on our agenda, referenced early in the meeting. Now, we, the board, may listen to the comment, and we may ask staff clarifying questions following it, but we may neither discuss nor take action at this meeting on topics that are not on the agenda, and this is in accordance with the Brown Act. So anyone who would like to address a topic that is not on this evening's agenda, this would be the time. We ask you to fill out a tan speaker card. I believe I have one up here right now, and each person may speak once with a 3-minute limit. So with that being said, I'd ask our speaker, James, it's Grippy? Just coming up and let me know how you properly pronounce it if I got it wrong. Grippy? Oh, thank you, sir. There you go, you're on.
Test 1, 2. It's Grippy.
You're good. Thank you, sir.
Excuse me. To the board and the parents in attendance and those all viewing Zoom, there are 2 reasons I came before the board today. And I'm not going to apologize for the vulgar language that's about to come out of my mouth, since it's quite obvious you allow it in your all your libraries. First, on November 15th, the board had a meeting where some parents shared very concerning books available to our young children. Some of these titles include Me, Earl, and The Dying Girl, which discussed about eating pussy and butthole. A Punkzilla book describes obscene sexually explicit scenes involving blowjobs and coming. Is this what is okay with you in middle school, K through 8? I can only hope that these have been immediately removed from my schools that I pay for. Second, on January 9th, I contacted my son's principal at Joe Mitchell, Dr. Limbo, about a poster that was put outside the bathroom of the K through 8th grade. Poster said you can choose your gender. I immediately requested and was granted a meeting with Dr. Limbo, Mr. Krolikowski, and Tracy Christmas. In that meeting, we shared our views, and I told him that it was inappropriate and urged that poster be removed immediately. I was then challenged by Mr. Krolikowski to prove that violated the freedom of speech policy 5145.2. That poster is the definition of libelous. As we all know, it is impossible for any of us to choose our gender. For all of human history, the objective standard of determining gender was and still is by the doctor who help birth the child when a child is born and looking at the genitals. It's basic biology, folks. This poster has nothing to do with inclusivity. It is not factual nor promoting positivity. In fact, it is a definition of libelous and violation of 5145 and should be removed immediately. Not only is it not factual, it is extremely confusing to students of the ages of 5 to 14. And this poster is outside of a bathroom. Have you studied, or do you know the long-term psychological effects this has on our children? Surely you're aware of how impressionable children are. Are you aware of the psychological damage this may create in these young minds, especially those learning or trying to learn who they are, what they want to be, when they grow up? They are too young, people. In my meeting, Dr. Lembo, Ms. Christmas, and Mr. Krolikowski, I asked them, what are they going to say when a child asks them, how do I choose my gender? Ms. Christmas couldn't come up with an educated decision and decided to say that she would tell them, it's okay if you wanted to start a club of rainbow ponies and unicorns.
15 seconds.
Ms. Dr. Lembo was a little bit more educated, stating that she would contact the school psychologist and then the parents, both of which she said that didn't happen with the student that made this poster. So I ask you, all of you, ask yourselves, what do you yourself and how are you going to direct your administrators and officials to answer a child when the child comes up to them and says, Mr. Bueno, how do I choose my gender?
That's your time, sir. We have no other comments, so we're going to close the public comment. Mr. Van Schack, just a clarifying question. A poster, it was Joe Mitchell. Was it the school generated, or what was the source of it?
This poster was generated by a student club.
Student club, okay, all right. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move into 8.2B, correspondence. Formal written correspondence to the Board of Education shall be acknowledged if received by the board, us, or in the superintendent's office by 4 p.m. the day before the meeting. Formal written correspondence received after the cutoff time will generally be acknowledged at the following meeting. Our board electronic communications received via the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District website by accessing the formal written correspondence to the Board of Education with all fields completed and verified shall be treated as formal written correspondence. And Madam Clerk, if we have any correspondence, would you please summarize?
We have no correspondence at this time.
Thank you very much. Moving into section 9, this is our information discussion items. I'd ask Mr. Van Schack if you could introduce 9.1, please.
I will do so. I would like to invite Teresa Fiskus forward. She is currently our Director of Fiscal Services, and she is going to share some information about the governor's proposed budget for the 2023-2024 year.
Good evening, President Bueno, members of the board, Superintendent Van Schack, and Cabinet. Tonight I'm here to present information on the governor's proposal for the 2023-2024 state budget. So for the first time in his governor career, Governor Newsom is facing a budget deficit. I would like to say welcome to our world. In school districts, we face budget deficits quite a lot since we're dependent on the state budget. So far, the good news is that most of his reductions are outside of K-12 education. However, we are expecting a lot of change between now and the final budget in June. What we're hearing is actually to expect a very wild ride this year. And so generally, taxes are due, most of us know, on April 15th. And then the state has 1 month to prepare their May revise, and they come out with that a month later. However, due to the state of emergency because of weather this year, a lot of taxpayers will not have to file their tax returns until May 15th, which means when the governor comes out with his May revise on the 15th, they may not have a lot of information at that time. So we are expecting a bigger swing this year between May revise and the June budget than we've seen in past years. So the Department of Finance is forecasting slow revenue growth, not currently a recession. However, they have stated that the period of unprecedented general fund revenue growth is clearly over at this time. So what does that mean for K-12 education, you may ask? So the good news is that the governor is proposing an 8.13% COLA to the local control funding formula, or LCFF, as well as other restricted programs. He's also proposing to continue implementation of his ongoing programs, such as transitional kindergarten, the expanded learning opportunities program, transportation, and universal meals. And then the not so good news. So we have all heard that the governor is proposing a mid-year cut to the art and music discretionary block grant. This actually would come in as a retroactive cut because it wouldn't be determined until the governor releases his budget next year, and the funding was received this year. So we are waiting patiently or expectantly to hear news on this action. And then secondly, this is the first time in years that districts won't have any new one-time funds to help cushion our local budgets. So the local control funding formula is based on grade spans. And if you look at our first row here, you can see that our transitional kindergarten through third grade students received $10,197 for each student this year. Adding the COLA next year, we would receive an additional $745 per student, resulting in a base grant of $10,942 for each of our TK through third grade students. Our fourth through sixth grade students would generate a maximum of $10,060. Our seventh through eighth grade students, a maximum of $10,359. And our ninth through 12th grade students would generate a maximum of $12,317 per student. For transitional kindergarten, the governor has included an add-on for our students of an additional $3,042 per TK student. So school districts do have a few options on how they calculate their average daily attendance, taking the most beneficial one for their district. And so the first policy is the COVID-19 average daily attendance relief policy. That allows districts to be funded on the greater of their current year average daily attendance, prior year average daily attendance, or the average of the 3 most recent prior years. And the second policy is the ADA loss mitigation. This allows districts to amend the amounts they reported in their 21-22 ADA with instead the 2019-20 attendance yield. So it's very, very complex. But I can tell you that we have taken Livermore's best options to calculate our projection for next year. And so currently we are using the average of the 3 most recent prior years. And we are also using the ADA loss mitigation amendment to amend our 21-22 ADA. With all of those factors, we are projecting ADA of $12,642 for next year. The governor's budget proposal continues his implementation of universal TK. So now students who are 4 when the school year begins, but turn 5 between September 2nd and April 2nd will now be eligible for the program. The budget proposal does not include the required funding to further reduce the student-to-adult ratios as was expected, so the ratio for the next fiscal year will remain at no more than 12-1. Our restricted categorical programs are shown on this slide, and so the ones on the left are the ones that are proposed for ongoing funding but will not receive the state's COLA. This is the after-school education and safety program that we run in combination with Beliefs, the Career Technical Education Incentive Grant and K-12 Strong Workforce Grant, both received through Tri-Valley ROP, and the Agricultural Education Incentive Program we received through Livermore High School. And the programs on the right are the ones that will receive the COLA, and so these are our special education program, child nutrition, the Adult Education Block Grant, which is the program we run at the Vineyard Adult School, our mandated cost block grant, and the American Indian Education Centers. So the new proposed ongoing funding in the budget that we're all very, very excited about is Prop 28. It's art and music funding. So currently, the proposal for the funding formula is that districts will receive 70% based on their share of statewide enrollment and 30% based on their share of low-income students. The requirements around the program are that the funding must be distributed to our school sites. The principal of each school must develop an expenditure plan. It must supplement, not supplant, existing art programs. and 80% must be spent on staff. So moving on from revenues into the expenditure side, the governor's current budget proposal does project rising CalPERS pension costs once again. This is disappointing, as we had heard last year that we had expected the rates to level out. The good news is that CalSTRS has remained level, so next year CalSTRS is remaining constant in our projection at 19.1%. However, CalPERS now does have a projected increase, increasing from the 25.37% this fiscal year to 27% next year. It's also now projected to rise in the 2 out years as well. So next steps, we will update our budget assumptions using information from the governor's budget proposal, as well as any direction given by the board at the budget workshop held later this month. We will then prepare our second interim report using updated assumptions, and that will be presented to the board in March for approval. We will continue planning in collaboration with Education Services for the 2023-2024 LCAP, and we will attend the Governor's May Revise Workshop presented by School Services held in May. And with that, this is an information item. I am happy to answer any questions you may have on the governor's proposal.
Thank you very much. We'll start with Trustee Druin.
Can you tell me about the district's plans for Prop 28 funds? Because I think I had a different understanding of it, so I'm just kind of curious. And I know it's moving forward, but just the like the 80% must be spent on staff, so I'm kind of interested in thoughts or anything that you could share at this point.
The most I could share is that we are very early in our planning and are just getting groups together to start figuring out what we're going to do. We just have learned the rules around the grant and the best way to meet the program requirements. And so my assumption is that Assistant Superintendent Thiede will be gathering her team and gathering with the principals to determine what the best way to spend these funds are.
Trustee Guzman.
Yes. Can you remind me of who is in the CalSTRS bucket and CalPERS? I believe CalSTRS is certificated staff, and then CalPERS is non-certificated, so that includes administrators. Does it include our classified, or can you just tell me, please?
Mm-hmm. You were on the right track, absolutely. So CalSTRS is for certificated employees, and CalPERS is for classified employees.
Okay. And that includes our administrators?
Administrators are both.
Oh,
So we
okay.
have certificated administrators as well as classified administrators.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
They're not in both, but they can be
Or
either.
one or the other.
For example, generally business side of the house, I'm a classified administrator. Normally, our educational side of the house are normally certificated administrators based on our backgrounds and the way we move up the ranks.
Okay, thank you.
I have one follow-up question then. So if we take all of the employees of LVJUSD, what would the percentage be within each CalSTRS, and how could you get, and CalPERS?
Not off the top of my head, but I could certainly look into that information for
Okay,
you.
I'm just curious. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Wong.
Can you say a little more about the mid-year cut to the art music discretionary grant?
I was hoping someone might ask me about that. I did bring our projected amount. So it's very rough right now because they're telling us the best projection they've given us is that he could potentially reduce it by 1/3. And so our best projection is to reduce our grant by 1/3, and so we're looking at a potential reduction of $2.6 million. And again, that's based on a plan of spending of $8,049,623 that the board approved or was brought to the board for information. And so the district has already set aside plans for that funding, and if the governor decides to reduce it, we will have to reprioritize our plan.
Okay, so assuming we wanted to keep funding those programs, would we potentially take some of the money from Prop 28 to do that? Or are you saying we already are making plans to take it from elsewhere?
The problem with there is a very distinct difference between the art and music discretionary block grant and the Prop 28 art and music funding going forward. the big term in the first one is discretionary. And so most districts use that funding to help offset state issues like STRS and PERS rising costs that accounted for in the current year. And so there is not anything in our discretionary block grant that would fall into allowable program under Prop 28. So long answer to your short question is no, we would not be able to do that. We would have to
Interesting. Okay.
reprioritize.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. One clarifier is on page 3, the slide was transitional kindergarten expansion. Are the numbers, it looks like before the change, about 25% of the kids roughly qualified, that 3-month window of birth qualified. And with the expansion, am I correct to say that it's 6 months out of the year qualifies?
Yes, that's correct.
For TK?
For TK, that's correct.
Oh, I'm sorry, TK. That's under the transitional kindergarten. And are those kids, because it's roughly 1,000 kids a year, so are those 250 kids included in the revised ADA or the ADA averages?
They are not, because our current projection uses the average of the 3 prior years. So they would be included moving forward, starting next year. But this year, because we're basing our projection on the current 3 prior years, they wouldn't be included because we wouldn't be counting next fiscal year yet.
Okay, yeah, okay. But going forward, it would be advantageous.
Absolutely. Going forward, they would certainly help increase our average daily attendance and our funding.
Okay.
One thing I think it's worth mentioning is we have certain number of students who are eligible for kindergarten in the town of Livermore. Well over 90% of those eligible actually enroll in kindergarten. The transitional kindergarten rate has been about 75%. So even though we may have, if it's typical, we might have 1,000, but if our rates are consistent with what they've been over the last several years, we'd have about 750. And so we're kind of doing some forward planning based upon that number.
Okay.
So it's
Understood.
just a slightly lower number.
Participatory.
Yeah.
Even though it's only 25% of all.
Right.
Now it's 50%. It's 70% of
75% of 50%. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And then one question,
Yeah, we need the math people back in here. Yeah. If math counts kids, we'll figure this out.
This would be a great question on the math counts next.
yeah. You got to throw apples in a basket or something in there too. And one question, Mr. Van Schack, on the Prop 28, it says that this funding will be distributed to school sites and the principals will have the expenditure plan. Where would we see that? As part of single plans, or like where would we see that if we want to look at that as it rolls in?
I think we'll probably establish a plan outside of those. I know that, for example, our music teachers have been getting together already and having some conversations about modifications to the program that they'd like to see moving forward to increase participation. So I think we'll probably develop a plan. I don't know, Ms. Steedy may have a more elaborate answer than that.
I do meet with the music teachers regularly, and they're well aware of this funding, and they have definitely shared some ideas that they have for our music programs moving forward. So that is ongoing conversation, but they're definitely involved, and they have some great vision.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. If you'd introduce 9-2, please.
Thank you, Ms. Fiskus. I'd like to bring Ms. Taylor back to the front. She's going to provide with us one in our series of conversations about school sites, and she's going to talk about the wonderful things going on Maryland Avenue.
Now I'm on? Am I on? Yeah.
Yes.
Again, good evening, Board President Bueno and members of the board, Superintendent Van Schack and Cabinet. I'm Dana Taylor, the very proud principal of Maryland Avenue again. And I'm here tonight to highlight the amazing work that our staff and students are doing at Maryland Avenue. Is it the top one? Side? There. So Maryland Avenue School this year we're very proud to be the recipient of the Federal Magnet School Assistance Program, or MSAP grant, for just over $10 million. And this is exciting because we are one of only 19 awards that were given in the United States, only 2 of them in the state of California. And so we have been that grant started in October, and this is our planning year. And in next year, we will be opening as a science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, or STEAM magnet school. Maryland's current in school demographics, we have an enrollment of 375 students right now. It's a little larger than last year. Our main demographic is Hispanic or Latinx families, and as well as we are 75% socioeconomically disadvantaged, with almost 45% emergent bilingual students. Some of our data from last year, from our CASP data, Maryland students were 30% proficient on their CASP ELA taken last spring, and 29% proficient in math. What we're doing to combat that for this year, we made a plan. We looked at the data and said, what can we do? So our staff came together. They're doing universal access time, which is a targeted intervention, and also the use of, in mathematics, Dreambox curriculum, and they're averaging about 4.5 lessons a week in that. So we hope those numbers will be up next year. Our attendance rate is 91%, and we are also looking at ways to improve that again. So next year when I come back, I'm going to have a higher number there because our child welfare aides, our attendance incentives, and our parent center, and just the work we do with meeting with families to stress the importance of attendance. Hopefully, well, positively, that number will be higher next year. And one source of pride for us is our panoramic data that shows that it's pretty high. It's a strength of ours for sure. It's 74% of our students are reporting positive teacher-student relationships. And this was taken in the fall. And again, I hope to see a higher number there again next year because we're doing a lot of work, and I'll be talking later about our positive behavior incentives and school-wide expectations, as well as spending more time with our students since distance learning. I think every month that we're with them, every week we're with them, we're making more positive relationships. Our students also are 34% emergent bilingual, and 127 of our students, or 34% of them, increased at least one LPAC level last year. And we think and we hope it's because of our 30 minutes a day of ELD time. And also, we're lucky to have 2 GLAD trainers on our site, as well as our targeted intervention in universal access time. Our office referrals are considerably low, I believe 30%, and again, we feel that's because of our PBIS expectations, our incentives. Teachers are taking Tier 1 intervention in the classroom and doing their own interventions as a first step. We also use something called a fix-it ticket, and we track all of our data in a program called SWIS. Our Easy CBM data for last year or last spring, our students were 61% fluent on the final grade 3 assessment. And I put a little asterisk there because the last time we tested this year, a few weeks ago, our students were at 72%. So we were proud of that. Also, last year, our first graders in spring, their fluency was 61% proficient on the final grade 1 assessment. And we're really proud of that because the district average was 59%. So we're really excited to see, especially what we are going to do this year. So, and we just think that's, great work with our PLCs and our UA connection, our universal access connection, and those targeted interventions. And again, student and staff hard work, as you saw today. That was our proof. The projects we've done for this year are, again, preparing for the STEAM opening. Lots of work is being done to prepare for that. Again, I will say over and over, and you've probably heard it a million times, but all of our energy and time and focus has really been focused on our students in this universal access time to make sure our students are getting targeted literacy support. We're very proud of what we're doing. Our students are reaping the benefits. Our teachers are amazing and learning more and more skills, and it's become a team effort to make sure these students are rising in their literacy. Also, coming back from, we had a little dip there when we were at distance learning. So we're expanding our positive behavior interventions and supports. Lots of posters, lots of teaching about school-wide expectations. All students can tell you that what it's like to be respectful and safe and kind at Maryland, and what that looks like in our office, what that looks like in our lunchroom, what that looks like in the bathroom. So we're really, really proud of their work and what they do, and what they earn something called a Roadrunner Rave if they're if they meet one of those 3 expectations, and we like to praise them and celebrate. And the other thing I'm really proud of is our new running club, and the advisor is Emily Scholl, who's here tonight, as well as being our reading intervention teacher. She started a running club that Maryland has not had, and we call it the Road Runners, appropriately. And the very first day, we had 80 runners that week. And over the winter break, we're down to about 60, but I think it's going to increase and increase. We're buying more feet for those dog tags and chains than we know what to do with. But this has been an exciting, positive thing for our students to share twice a week. So thank you, Emily. And that's what it looks like. That's the highlight of Maryland.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We'll start with Trustee Guzman.
Hello, thank you. 2 questions.
Sure.
One, can you remind me and what grade level do students start taking the CASP test?
They start in 3rd grade.
Okay, thank you. And then I heard that this year will be the planning year for the grant.
Yes.
Who is on that planning committee as far as representation? And do we have community members and family? And who's on
Right now, yes, we have our assistant superintendent, Melissa Thiede. We have Chris Connor, who is our elementary director of curriculum. We also have our new magnet school coordinator, recently hired, Dr. Holly Barker, who is assisting us in this journey. Myself, all of the teachers and staff, and we are getting feedback from parents and community, and people like outsiders like Quest Science Center and community members.
Okay. Yeah, I would really just strongly encourage and urge that those that live within the neighborhood have an active voice. And if we need to get translation so that occurs, let's please do that.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Trustee Wong?
Hello. Hi. How are we getting the word out to the community about the magnet program and the kind of this transition the school is going through?
Right now, we are, the magnet coordinator, Holly Barker, and myself are doing the main bit of promotion. We will be starting at the kindergarten fair. We're doing all of our promotion there. We're hoping that the Independent has run some stories on us, but right now it's still, we've just been given the green light and go ahead on the grant. It just started the process, so we're still working on it.
This is for the next school year, right? 23, 24?
We are, yes, it will start in August.
Okay. Just because when I go around the community, everyone I mentioned this to has not heard of it, and they're all very excited, but I think we're going to have to really keep getting the
Yes.
word out there over and over in lots of different ways, because people aren't, there's just too much information.
I agree, that's the plan.
I just have a quick question about all the numbers on like CASP scores and, the ELDs and all that. How do these compare to during the pandemic, pre-pandemic? Are these sort of similar numbers, or what are you seeing?
We're seeing similar numbers, although they're growing. Of course, they were looking similar to what happened over COVID or in distance learning, but most of the students took the CASP at home that year, so it was our first year on campus. So and they were comparable. We're a little growth in mathematics.
Okay, so how is that different from pre-pandemic? Or,
Not very different. It's very similar.
okay, so this is sort of
This is, last spring.
it's looked, okay.
Those
Thank you.
numbers are going to look much higher next year.
Okay.
Thank you, Trustee Wong. Trustee Brusso?
First, I wanted to say I'm really excited for our new STEAM magnet school. And being on campus at Maryland is really great, just a great experience. So I hope that other people get to have that opportunity. There's a great culture there. And so hoping we can draw some more community members to that school. I think it's going to be really exciting. I did have a little question on the on the numbers. It looks like they did go up a little bit from the year before. Is the universal access time, did that just begin this year? And would you attribute what's your explanation for, obviously we're also in school full-time, which probably helps, but.
Right. We started a little bit of universal access. We had a few teachers kind of piloting before the rest, so we were excited to see what happened. We definitely saw growth, in particular 2 different grade levels. Started piloting the UA time, and we saw such growth in kindergarten and 3rd grade that it really started our universal access. And we got the ball rolling and started very early because our teachers were already ready to go and understood the process. So I feel that we are going to see improvement in ELA.
And you are doing that universal access time is for the ELA, for the mathematics, you're doing the Dreambox, which is
For
like
interventions, yes.
For okay. Which is like a program, right? Like
Right.
Okay.
On top of the curriculum.
I think that was basically it. Although I agree with Trustee Wong that if there's any way that we can help to get the word out, maybe the community engagement team, obviously, we're probably going to be involved in that. But to just try to, I think Ms. Leedy wants to say something about it.
Well, I just wanted to reassure you that our community engagement department is definitely involved. We are creating, in the process, as we're developing the program, we're creating the brochures that we'll be sharing with our community. We're developing videos of different STEM activities, STEAM activities that are happening at the site to really highlight some of the things we're proud of that we already have in place and to show some of our ideas about what's coming in the future. There is a broader plan to involve members of our community beyond what we have because, as Dana mentioned, this is the very beginning. But our community engagement department is definitely involved. We're still at the beginning stages, so it isn't advertised broadly at this point, but we have huge plans to do so. So it will definitely be something we are hopeful that everybody will know a lot about very soon.
Yeah. And we had a kinder information night, and the people who came there, about 85–90% of them signed up for more information about the program. So we were really excited that we saw that as a good sign of things to come. So we can't wait to promote all that's happening.
Well, great job. You guys are doing a good job.
Thank you, Trustee Brusso. Trustee Drone.
So first, I want to say thanks for your asset-based framing of your multilingual learners and your presentation. And then secondly, I'm thinking school culture is huge. You know, it's really deeply rooted in, you know, how teachers think about their practice. And so I'm kind of interested, you know, this is obviously an opportunity to rethink about school culture and what learning looks like and feels like at Maryland. So I'm kind of interested in how you're helping teachers to, you know, celebrate this opportunity and give them time and resources to you know, grow into this new identity as a school. And if you're not sure at this point, it's okay. I know it's all early. We're all very excited is really about the trip. So
It is very early, but we definitely have plans for PBL. We'll be part of this training with our teachers, and lots of integration of curriculum in this journey.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. And I just wanted to thank you, Ms. Taylor, for the enthusiasm you bring. And the first time I met you, I knew that you bring horsepower to a campus, and it's just something you do, and it's infectious, and everyone around you seems to rally, and good things seem to just kind of go around you. So thank you very much for what's happening over there, and to Ms. Scholl for taking the initiative and bringing that in, because it's one of those things. It takes collaboration between all parties to bring things, where we want to go, and sometimes it's just a matter of focus and energy and talent, and so you guys are both bringing it. And then to the public, this was a very, very concerted effort to bring in this grant funding of over $10 million, nearly $11 million, as well as some other things that are becoming to Maryland Avenue. And central to that effort, along with a lot of community support, was our assistant superintendent, Ms. Thede, who's taken a special interest in Maryland Avenue. So the successes we're going to see over the next couple of years in that focus is due to some of those folks, and then all those that you're collaborating with. So I really want to thank you guys, or you ladies particularly, for that effort, because Maryland Avenue, everyone knows that's always, it's a challenge. And some of the things that are very difficult to overcome is English language learners. I know that I'm particularly sensitive. My dad didn't speak English when he started school. It was second language to our family. And I know that the challenges that brings. And then you put socioeconomic challenges on that, and it's difficult. And with that type of energy and that type of focus and this kind of added resources, we're going to overcome it. It's a STEAM magnet school, so great things are coming. And so I really want to thank you for that. Nice job. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to continue the theme of analyzing assessment with Matthew Hart. He's our Director of Assessment Accountability. He's going to provide to the board and the community our mid-year report regarding our school success scoreboard.
Good evening, Board President Bueno, members of the board, Superintendent Van Schack, members of cabinet, members of our community. My name is Matthew Hart. I'm the Director of Assessment and Accountability, and CalSTRS contributing member. The mid-year scoreboard report is a new report for this year. Just for context, go back a couple of months to our board workshop on the LVJUSD scoreboard, right, where we attempted to identify data points that we were going to track year over year in order to hold ourselves accountable and to sort of make sure that we're clear about the priorities of our district and the priorities of our district as established by board direction. So the purpose of this report then is as an update, right? Is as a way of, I guess what we don't want to do is to present the data and then do sometimes what we call like admiring the problem or celebrating the successes and then just sort of moving on. I think the idea is that data creates a focus of work, right? And that should lead to action. And so the purpose of this is to take a look at what data we can that might be anticipatory of future results, and also to review the action that we've taken in response to the original data points. The purpose of this, I will say, by the way, is it's meant to be an impression of work being done. That there are also a lot of details I'm going to throw out you. I apologize for the whirlwind tour nature of the details. I'll be willing to go back through those in the question section. But basically, in that second bullet, this report is going to review the work done on each scoreboard element, all 10 of them for the major district scoreboard. And then I'm going to gather any potentially predictive data, and I'll say more about that as we launch off here. So the first element on the scoreboard was for CASP-ELA, the percentage proficient. A reminder of last year, we had 60% of the students in our district proficient in the English language arts portion of the CASP. So under the actions column there, that's not meant to be an exhaustive list of everything that we do to help support students in English language arts, but it is meant to reflect the focus and priority of like either new or expanded work throughout the district. And so in this case, the addition of universal access time in the elementary grades, the focus on early literacy there has been probably really the major point of focus for our district. I think you've heard it in every elementary school presentation so far. We've had a revision of the District Right program to try to make sure that we get, I guess, steadier data with that. And then the development of essential standards that's been done in the elementary level because it helps with universal access time, but really pushing that as well and expanding it into the secondary level with our middle and high schools. The timeline so we are not going to have CASP data, students take that in the spring. So I don't have exactly predictive data right now. That data, they'll take it in the spring, and then we'll get the data in August, probably. So what I have here at the bottom then for each slide is potentially predictive data. And it's not meant to be like exact, right? So for example, we have grade distribution for trimester 1 in English. On the description, there is anything C or better. At the high school level, 86% of our students are getting a C or better in English, or at least they did for T1. In middle school, 87%. Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying that we're going to, jump from 60% to 86%. And this might be, I don't know, sort of abstract, but I think you'll get what I'm getting at. I think the idea is that we look at these year over year, right? And so if we end up with, say, if we have 86% passing right now and we end up at, say, somewhere around 60 to 65%, next year, if we're at 86% passing again, we might be able to see probably, we could assume, it might be somewhere in that stretch. Or if we see grades maybe jump to 90%, then we might be expecting something of an increase, right? So it's not meant to be a one-on-one sort of piece of predictive data, but as we track this sort of year over year, it might help us anticipate spikes or dips in the data. So the other predictive data we're accumulating is our students take the IAB, the interim assessment block, which is like a very, very small CAS grade taken through the same medium, and then our focus on the EasyCBM screener in the elementary grades. I spent a little bit more time on that slide. I'm going to move slightly faster going forward. For CAS Math, we were at 47% proficient. That was a concerning number, I think, for us, certainly in curriculum. So you can see the amount of actions that we've taken there, and that's because it's a heavy focus for us this year. The development of essential standards, much like in ELA, rewriting the math finals all the way from Math 6 through Algebra 2, a partnership with the Silicon Valley Math Initiative, an algebra task force, creating Algebra 1 intervention classes, sending teachers to the NCTM conference, professional development for our teacher leaders and the elementary math leadership team are all either new or expanded actions of focus for this year to help our math scores. You can see the potentially predictive math distribution, T1. Oh, I took some time with this because I actually thought it was interesting. So at high school, we have 81% of our students passing math classes. In middle school, 85%. Now, what I also want to count those, just so you know, for CAS Math, that test judges through Algebra 2 standards, essentially, right? So what I have there is the high school students that are taking something less than Algebra 1 or less, or like Math Academy, for example, they're passing classes at a 74% rate. For high school students that are taking greater than Algebra 1, so it'd be like, geometry or Algebra 2 or pre-calculus or calculus, they're passing classes at 85%. So if we take those, the sort of upper fails and then those who are less than Algebra 1, because they won't have made it through the standards, right, that we're expecting, or maybe not on track to do that, that ends up being about 45% of math students. So that was a number I thought was interesting, and that's another number I think we really want to track year over year, is to decrease that last number. And I think the more of those we decrease, the greater increase we'll see on our students who get through Algebra 2 standards and succeed on the CASP. Our graduation rate is very high, 98.5%. Our maintenance of the current credit recovery programs. We have an expansive use of credit recovery, and the great work of schools like Del Val, for example, have helped us create a very high graduation rate for our district. For UC A through G completion, we were at 51%. Our percentage on track or near completion for UC A through G so far is at 74%. Now, again, I'm not promising we're going to have some kind of 23% jump. However, as we look at that data year over year, if we see it rise and climb, then we should see rising or climbing with those that end up finally being A through G compliant. I'm just going to anticipate a question a little bit, which is, why would we have 74% on track and then end up sort of lower than that? And that's because some students end up 5 or 10 or 15 credits short, because that junior and senior year is some of the things they need for graduation, right, like 4 years of UC compliant English, for example, but some things they don't. And as their post-secondary option becomes clear, and as for some of them, maybe it becomes clear that they're not necessarily going on to a 4-year, but to some other option, then they don't end up finishing some of the things that it would take for them to be UC A through G compliant. I would still argue, I think there's an issue with that, because A through G compliance helps you no matter where you go, and it's important to be able to think logically and with rigor, no matter what your post-secondary option is. For college and career readiness, 54.4% of our students designated as college and career ready. What we're looking here, these are all different elements of what it takes to be designated as college and career ready. The CASP scores, once again, AP and IB passing scores, because you can use AP scores as a college and career readiness indicator. CTE pathway completion is something I think we'll look more and more carefully at in the future, is both communicating and expanding the programs available there, because that's where we will catch students that aren't necessarily passing maybe AP classes, for example. The percentage of of level 4 emergent bilinguals reclassified. This is an interesting number, actually. Remember, this was a whole number back at the workshop, and the direction of the board was, and this was good direction, is why don't you make it a percentage? And I think it tells a story that is sort of interesting, which is that there's two things needed for reclassification. One is proficiency in the English language at an academic level, and then there's also content knowledge in English, right? So the first one is measured by the LPAC. And then the second is measured by the CASP or the writing benchmark or EasyCBM or whatever it is that we need. And students need both. I think we originally intended this to be like making sure that if they have the language proficiency, do they have the content knowledge in order to reclassify? And what the story there is actually that it's completely clear that they do. If we can get students to level 4, then 95% of them will reclassify. They will have the content knowledge necessary to be able to reclassify. So this is actually a number Mr. Van Schack and I were talking about potentially looking at a different number for next year, because this may be a sort of, I don't want to say it's solved necessarily, but it may not tell us a story that we're particularly interested in tracking at this point. Really, the issue here is, can we get students to level 4 on the LPAC? That really seems to be the most helpful path and trajectory that we're on. The percentage of emergent bilinguals progressing at least one LPAC level, we had 35%. This was another huge focus for us this year. We are developing an ELD plan in the curriculum and educational services. I spoke to you about that last time I was here discussing reclassification. We revised the ELD course structure and made it A through G approved for the high school level, pushing out professional development and support on teacher strategies. Percentage of students passing Algebra 1 for the first time. Again, a lot of actions there, and that's because math has been such a focus for the district this year. I'm not going to go through all those necessarily, but we're looking at the percentage of passing grades in Algebra 1. For T1, it was 74%, and we're hoping that the actions taken there increase that as the year goes on. Percentage of students suspended, 2.6%. I think every school also so far that's presented has discussed PBIS, their work with PBIS and the expansion of that. Back when I did, I think, an assessment presentation for you, I talked about the effect of PBIS on our suspension numbers. Suspension numbers did drop since prior to the pandemic, even though we came back, and we had a recurrence of some behaviors, but not so we think the impact of PBIS has been profound. I think the data shows that. That's the point. And number 10 is average daily attendance, 93.35%. We have the reestablishment of the A2A program, the Attention to Attendance program, our district wellness coordinator, Lisa Hannon and Danner, the teen mental health first aid, professional development. Our ADA has dipped since previous to the pandemic, even though we came back last year, and I think we're looking to see what we can do to increase that. So this is my sort of evaluative summary once again, right? Points of emphasis. I would hope that initiative effort appears to be focused on the areas of greatest need as indicated by the data and the direction of the board and conversation. I would look to track predictive data year over year. It's not going to be one-to-one comparable, but it can help us anticipate spikes or dips. And that some areas would benefit from more specific data generated by formative assessments. I think especially looking into for example, some of the math stuff, I think the development of formative assessments at the secondary level would help us create better predictive data. And I'm open to questions.
Thank you very much. We'll begin with Trustee Prusso.
Thank you as always. I really appreciate the focus that we've been putting on data and working on plans to have better data. I just wanted to clarify, I think it says here, but you kept saying passing, and but by passing you mean C or better.
Yes.
So it's not a D. It's
We're not
C.
counting, yeah, correct. D does get a student in high school credit for a class, but for example, it doesn't count towards advancement.
Okay.
The high school policies are that like if you get a D in Algebra 1B, that you should be repeating algebra the next year.
So my question is, I understand this year we're kind of making a baseline for all of this data because we're kind of starting fresh. And if, like, for example, if we looked at the first slide, which is our CASP ELA, and we have the 60%, and then we're also looking at the grade distribution for English, the high school. Oh, one question on that. Is that all high school students that you're looking at, or just 11th grade? Because I know, or does it matter?
That's all. I think, actually, for this one, I think I looked 9 through 11.
Because would it matter? Because in 11th, our 9th, 10th, and 10th graders don't take CASP. Maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. I'm not really a statistics. I did take it in college.
I think it's a fair question. If we're tracking it longitudinally, we're looking at students who do well in English as a 9th grader and a 10th grader are likely to do well as an 11th grader.
It'll make more sense when we have the data from ongoing. So that is my other question. And maybe this doesn't matter because I think we're already just like, we're moving forward. But taking that information, could we take that information from last year, the grade distribution, and look at that and see, I don't know.
Does it line up to the 60%?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Starting the predictive part of this a
Right.
little bit early? We could.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure that's probably how you came to decide what to use as metrics for the mid-year, is by looking at things from last year. I don't know that it necessarily matters that we have the information. I'm just curious how you decided on these metrics. I think it works, and I think it's important that we have them mid-year, and that next year will be great because we'll be able to compare them.
Yeah, to come up with these metrics, I discussed it with the other directors in the curriculum department, Chris Connor, Director of Elementary Education, and Jason Kurlikowski, Director of Secondary. We went through and said, like, I don't have CASP data, obviously, right now. What are the things that we, and I kind of started us off with just a brainstorm, and we took and expanded that list, and that's where those numbers, or where those metrics came from.
Yeah, okay. I
Also,
mean, I think that's
if
good.
if I could just clarify one thing, because you mentioned this year being a baseline year. Actually, last year is the baseline year, and this year is an expectation of growth. And so you will see results from this year, in a report at the beginning of next school year. But
School year when we
last
have
year
those
was really
past results.
exactly.
But we didn't have this mid-year review last year.
Correct.
So we'll start. Okay, I understand. I think it's good. And then also we've talked about many times looking at assessments that aren't just the CASP, which we're doing, which I think is important because the CASP, as we all know, the stakes are not very high for students, which is fine. It's a baseline, but to really know how our students are doing, it's nice to have these other assessments or these other ways to assess. Okay.
Agreed.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you, Trustee Pruzo. Trustee Wong.
Hi. Thank you for doing this. This is so important to really look at how our students are doing and figure out what's working, what's not. When will we be able to get all the final numbers and do, real apples to apples comparisons?
The very last, out of the 10 on the district scoreboard, the very last one that we get is the college and career readiness number. And that's because it gets released in like November, right? Actually, this year we didn't even get it because I won't go into it, but we will have that number in November. Everything else we should have in the August to early September range. I am going to go in and try to. That's a number that the state the college and career readiness is a number that the state constructs in some interesting ways, and we don't have an easy local way to kind of reconstruct that number. But I'm going to do what I can in that August month to get us a kind of early district scoreboard, and we'll use that. So the final one would be in like late November, because we're waiting for that last number. But we'll have at least a pretty good early version of the scoreboard in August.
Okay, so, because I assume the point is to look at, are we doing better or not, and then figure out what changes to make, but that means we can't make changes for the next school year.
Right, no, that's a really good point. I mean, so much of the direction of the district, the visioning sort of for the year takes place in August, right? And everything that the principals have been working on, that they report in this, so that the planning for that was taking place in like July and August. And so having, if these are the Big 10, right, having this sort of available for them as early as possible to help with that is crucial.
Mm-hmm. And so some of these, which makes sense, but some of them have multiple actions, many programs and interventions going on, which is great because we can wait and do one thing at a time. But then how do you figure out which things worked and which ones didn't?
yeah, I think that'll be part of the discussions in August as we look at the data and, teasing that out. That's the job of our amazing other directors in the curriculum department and Melissa Thiede in educational services is teasing out what's been most effective and has led to whatever growth or regression we might see.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right. Yeah, I'll wait on that question. Thanks. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move into section 10. This is our discussion and action. And Mr. Van Schack, you can introduce 10-1, please.
Thanks, sir. Yes, I'd like to invite Amy Robbins forward. She's our Executive Director of Human Resources. And this evening, she's bringing together very exciting news of the employment contract for a new assistant superintendent. As sad as we are to see Ms. Kinder leave at the end of November, we are February. I just extended her, her husband's having a heart attack at home. February, I'm sorry. We're equally excited to have a new person coming aboard.
Good evening, Board President Bueno, Superintendent Van Schack, members of the board and cabinet. Tonight I bring to you the approval of employment contract for the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services. The Assistant Superintendent of Business Services is a contracted position requiring board authorization. This item is in the board's discussion and possible approval of a contract of employment with Teresa Fiscus as the new Assistant Superintendent of Business Services in our district. The proposed contract contains the following material terms. The term is from March 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2025. The annual base salary is $223,513 for 12 months of full-time service with annual step increase or decrease equal to that granted to the membership of the leadership team for the duration of this agreement. The assistant superintendent shall be annually entitled to the same annual stipends for earned master's or doctorate degrees as are members of our Leadership Management Association. The assistant superintendent shall receive 2 personal leave days each year that do not accumulate and receive the same holidays as provided to other district employees. The assistant superintendent shall be reimbursed for travel outside of the county in accordance with board policy. The assistant superintendent shall be provided the health and welfare, including vision and dental insurance coverage with premiums cost paid by the district to the same extent as such coverage is afforded to the Leadership Management Association members. The district shall provide the assistant superintendent at district expense with a fully paid term life insurance policy in the face amount of $200,000. In the event that the board decides to terminate the contract without cause, the assistant superintendent will be entitled to compensation equaling then her base salary for the lesser of 12 months or the remaining term of her contract. And that concludes the summary of the contract. A full copy of her contract is available on the district website as attached to this agenda item and is available for the district at the district office upon request. And with that, the superintendent's recommendation is to approve the employment contract between the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District and the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services.
Thank you very much. We have no speaker cards, so we'll close public comment on this. And this is an action item, and so I would entertain a motion.
I will make a motion. I just did want to say that I've been on the ROP board, and Teresa manages the finances over there. She's done a great job, and I think she has learned a lot from Susan, which we will miss her, but we're excited that Teresa will be with us. So with that, I make a motion. I move that we approve the employment agreement between the LVJUSD and the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services.
Thank you.
I second that.
So we have a motion by Trustee Prusso in support of the superintendent's recommendation, and it's been seconded by Trustee Guzman. Is there any discussion on the motion? Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Trustee Wong?
Aye.
Myself? Aye. Trustee Druin?
Aye.
Trustee Guzman?
Aye.
President Bueno?
Aye. That motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Yay.
All righty. We're moving into 11. These are our consent items. I think there's 12 tonight. 11.2 through 11.13. Unless anyone would like to remove any, someone make a motion, I'd entertain one to move them all.
President Bueno, I move that we approve consent items 11.2 through 11.13 in their entirety.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion by trustee Prusso, seconded by trustee Druin. Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Trustee Guzman?
Aye.
Trustee Druin?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Trustee Wong?
Aye.
President Bueno?
Aye. The motion carries unanimously. Moving to 12, these are consent resos. There's 33, 34, and 35 for current year. Unless someone would like to remove them, we accept the motion, move them in their entirety.
Mr. President, I move that we pass resolution number 033 through 035 in its entirety.
I'll second.
Motion by trustee Wong's been seconded by trustee Prusso to move all the resos together. Madam Clerk, if you call the roll.
Myself, aye. Trustee Druin?
Aye.
Trustee Guzman? Trustee Wong?
Aye.
President Bueno?
Aye. That motion carries unanimously. We didn't remove anything separately, so we'll start with board member reports and trustee Guzman.
Yeah, I can go ahead and pass to the next one, please.
What's that?
Who do you, I'll pass to the next.
Oh. Okay.
Well, I had the pleasure of attending the Make Time for Music Festival of Choirs presented by the Livermore Valley Education Foundation. The sold-out concert showcased the diversity of programs, students, and abilities over the course of the performance. One of the final songs performed by all of the choirs, they were standing in the aisleways, and it was just amazing, like goose flesh, because it was just phenomenal. Trustee Wong and I also happened to both attend the Songs of Livermore musical event at Rancho last week, and I think for the rest of my tenure, anytime someone says Rancho, I'm going to go, woo, in my head. It was part of the play. The planning, effort, forethought, and purposeful inclusion and celebration of diversity is noteworthy. What is important for me is that this is higher level multicultural education. There's different levels and approaches to multicultural education, and this is a standard that's teaching multicultural education, and was like, I'm stealing this for my class to talk about. So woven into this work are content, skills, and community engagements, and I like the phrase feeding multiple birds with one hand, and that is exactly what the teachers at Rancho are accomplishing. So that's some of the stuff I've been up to.
Thank you very much. Trustee Prusso.
Okay. I'll start with the Songs of Livermore at Rancho also. I was there a different day. But I have to say that I was really impressed. I feel like I have lived in Livermore for a long time now, but I did learn a lot about Livermore history. And the students did such a great job, and the program was written by one of the teachers there. It was a musical program about the history of Livermore. And I think that we should get all the third graders at that school to perform it at the Bankhead for our community. Wouldn't that be great? I feel like we learned so much about the lab, just the First Peoples, about, I don't know, all the ranchers, the rodeo, so many things. The light bulb. Yeah. Anyway, it was really great. A few other things I just wanted to mention that for Health and Wellness Committee, just give you a little update on that. We had one of the students from the Wellness Center. He's a culture keeper. His name's Michael Maloney. He gave a presentation on one of the projects he's working on, which was a brochure for phone usage for teens, and I feel like I might need that as well. And then also they're working on mental health lesson plans for their freshman and transition classes. And also it was interesting that Pleasanton Unified School District parent joined our meeting because they think that we're doing mental health wellness well in our district. So they wanted to see kind of what we're doing and see if they can replicate that over in Pleasanton. So I thought that was a tribute to our committee and our group, and especially to Dr. Hannon Danner. And then also want to put a plug for our Livermore Learns. They've been doing a lot of programs, webinars on mental health issues, and I believe the next one, or one of them that I thought would be important, I think I'm going to go to it, is setting boundaries with our students. And then I also just wanted to mention that if you hadn't already heard, I think we did discuss it in a board meeting, but we were awarded with a $5.7 million grant to establish elementary counselors, full-time elementary counselor for each school, which I think is really exciting. Yeah, there's some claps in the back. I think that'll be really great for our students. And then also we also had our TVROP board meeting, and I just wanted to highlight that we have some fairs coming up. Our Career Tech Education Fairs, Livermore High School will be February 16th. Granada High School will be February 22nd. And then our apprenticeship fair is tomorrow at Livermore High School, I believe from 8:30 to 12:30, and it will be in the gym. So anyone who's listening, if you want to head that or invite your students, I know a lot of times students come from all of the schools in the Tri-Valley area to come to that apprenticeship fair. And then also we had Algebra Task Force. Again, we're just working, algebra students or algebra teachers across the district, middle school and high school are working together. I felt like they've really been sharing things that work in their classrooms, which has been really exciting. And then also we were able to have our first library book selection committee. I don't know if that's what it's called. Which is a committee of, we have librarians, principals, a student, we have parents. One of our parents is here who is on that committee, as well as our curriculum directors. And the first, just for our first meeting, we looked at our current policy and procedures and kind of set a plan for what we want to do. I just wanted to mention this because I know there's many people in our community who are interested about this, and just want to know that we're working on it, and we should have a plan in place by the end of this school year, and also looking at possibly doing some policy changes for our policy committee to be prepared for. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Wong.
I want to start by thanking Amy Robbins and our HR department for the hard work they're doing. A lot of meetings I go to, everyone's talking about staffing, and they've done a magnificent job filling positions. And I know it's ongoing, and the job fairs and all of that, it's a lot, and you're doing great, and I just want to start by thanking you and your staff. I've also had a lot of committee meetings, policy and algebra task force. My main report is on Tri-Valley SELPA, our special ed with our local districts. We have new trustees from Pleasanton to Knoll, so 2 of our 4 trustees are new on SELPA. And a lot of the talk there, again, was about staffing. It's picking up, it's doing better, but still always a challenge with special ed staffing. And then the SELPA staff has been working a lot on mental health issues and sort of beefing up our trainings and programs to help with that. This Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Granada is the Tri-Valley SELPA Resource and Transition Fair. And I definitely plan on stopping by, and I think there'll be a lot of great resources for parents who want to come by and kind of learn about what's available. It's at Granada, Saturday, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. I want to mention the Livermore American Indian Center, which has a new director and had an open house recently. The new director is Tina Henson, and she's taking over from her grandmother, who ran the center for many years, for decades. And she's very excited about that. For people who don't know, it's located on the Lawrence Elementary School campus. And so that's very exciting. And I won't say any more about Rancho, but that was really great. And a special shout out to Mrs. Camilleri's class. I know all the third grader classes performed, but that was the class we saw, and they were really great. And then lastly, I want to end just by kind of announcing 3 community events that I think people might be interested in. One is the Lawrence Livermore National Labs Discovery Center reopened for the first time in 3 years. So that's very exciting. It's open to the public from 12 to 4 Monday through Friday. You don't need to, get screen checked or security clearance or anything. You can just drive over on Greenville Road and bring your ID. And it's small, but it's amazing what they pack in there. And so bring your phones, bring your kids. It's great. And they also take school groups. So school groups can register in advance. I got to ride a bike to make lights go up, so it's very interactive. And they're going to continue to make it even more interactive. And there's a little model of NIF in there. Science on Saturday is this month. So every Saturday this month, it's now at Las Positas College at 10 a.m. There'll be a presentation. I think it's only an hour, so don't be late. And then finally, this is Black History Month, and there are a lot of events at our Livermore Public Libraries, at all 3 libraries, and also the Bankhead Theater has a lot of great performances this month, so definitely check those out. And that's it.
Thank you very much. And some of those things I'm not going to recap, and thank you all. One thing I would like to do is I would like to thank, because we talked about it a little bit tonight, was the leadership of our Livermore Education Association. That was a process, and it took a lot of leadership, and it took the level of decorum and professionalism throughout that process that they exhibited, the support of their members. That will benefit all of our organized employees here, and that whole process of discovery, working cooperatively with our administrative team to look at some of the revised budgets. We happen to be in a state that had a large surplus last year, maybe a deficit this year. But that's a very lengthy process, and it's very easy to lose your course within it, and our professionals did not. It's not surprising, but it does, for me, it's very worthy of recognition, because that cooperative nature is one of the reasons that we enjoy the overwhelming support of our community through bond measures and parcel taxes and just program. And you put that together with some of the recent bonds. Trustee Prusso mentioned the $5.7 million grant for our counselors. It was mentioned by Mrs. Taylor earlier, the 10-point-something million, I think it's $10.6 million grant going towards the steam magnet that Mrs. Thedes helping coordinate over at Maryland Avenue. When you put those things together and future measures, the outcomes that Mr. Hart is looking to measure with some of the data, it takes that type of an effort and communication and working together. But none of it happens without professional teachers. And I am glad that we are going to be able to help retain and attract the best teachers in the area. And I think that the outcomes will be measured shortly in the years to come. So thank you very much for your leadership. Really appreciate it. And with that, Mr. Van Schack.
Thank you, trustees. So tonight's report on student achievement represents a commitment we've made to carefully track and adjust our practices based upon student achievement data, I think as was mentioned by several trustees. Though this is only a mid-year report, we see signs that things are trending in the right direction at all levels. We know how important it is to our board and our community that we carefully monitor and report data regarding the success of our schools. We also see from our report on the state budget that we anticipate a stable year economically. Though the cost of living adjustment will provide some of the revenue necessary to stay up with increased costs, it is also important that we review every area of our budget critically and make adjustments when necessary. Programs that lead to improved student performance should be nurtured and expanded, while those that do not should be adjusted or replaced. We continue to be amazed at the accomplishments of so many of our students, many of whom we've recognized this evening. We've had a very strong winter sports season, with several teams currently in or heading toward NCS playoffs. Our music programs are also a source of pride, led by an incredibly strong and dedicated team of music instructors. The list of students who are maintaining grade point averages of 3.5 and higher has never seemed longer. And also, just as one final remark, just a reminder that our transitional kindergarten and kindergarten registration event is coming up in just a couple weeks. It is February 22nd and 23rd. We will be welcoming the graduating class of 2035. And with that sobering thought, I will say good night.
Thank you very much. No further business. 2043 adjourned.